The Galactic Council chamber stretched 300 meters across, filled with representatives from 47 different species. Ambassador Daniel Price sat in the human section, a modest area near the back. Earth had joined the unified Galactic Coalition 500 years ago, but humanity still held little power in galactic affairs. Daniel did not mind. His job was simple. Listen, report back to Earth, and vote when asked. Today's session focused on the Zarathian Empire. Emperor Vexthor had sent demands to the Council 3 weeks ago. His empire wanted to expand into frontier territories. The Zarathians claimed ancient rights to those worlds, dating back thousands of years before other species even knew about them. Council Speaker Thelvan, a tall Rixian with silver skin and 4 arms, called for discussion. One by one, ambassadors stood to speak. Most urged caution. The Zarathian Empire commanded 2,000 warships. They had conquered 17 species over the past millennium. No one wanted conflict with them. Daniel listened, but said nothing. Earth's military consisted of perhaps 200 ships, designed mostly for patrol and defense. Humans had learned long ago to keep quiet in rooms full of bigger powers. On the colony world of New Hope, morning sunlight broke across green fields. The agricultural settlement housed 12,000 colonists who had arrived 30 years ago. They grew food crops that fed 3 nearby human worlds. Life moved slowly on New Hope, which suited the colonists perfectly. Michelle Brooks stood in the kitchen of the Bright Future Orphanage, preparing breakfast for 43 children. She had run the orphanage for 8 years ever since the facility opened. The children had all lost parents in a mining accident 2 years ago. A tunnel collapse in the northern mountains had killed 63 miners in a single day. Lisa Grant entered the kitchen, carrying empty plates from the dining hall. She taught the younger children reading and basic mathematics. Kevin Martinez followed her, hauling a bag of fresh vegetables from the garden. He taught music and helped with outdoor activities. The children ranged from age 4 to 16. Little Amy Chen, the youngest, had just learned to read simple words. She loved showing Michelle every new word she discovered. The older teenagers helped care for the younger ones, creating a family atmosphere that Michelle worked hard to maintain. Colony Governor Ryan Campbell reviewed morning reports in his office when the warning came through. A fleet had appeared at the edge of the system. Sensors showed 15 large vessels, military class. They broadcast Zarathian identification codes. Ryan opened a communication channel. A Zarathian commander appeared on screen. His scales gleamed dark purple, and his eyes showed no emotion. The commander identified himself as Zekthar, fleet leader of the Zarathian expansion force. Zekthar spoke in clear, cold tones. New Hope Colony existed on territory claimed by the Zarathian Empire under ancient law. All colonists had 6 hours to evacuate. Any who remained after the deadline would be considered hostile trespassers. Ryan tried to negotiate. He explained that 12,000 people could not evacuate in 6 hours. They needed time to organize transport, especially for children and elderly residents. He asked for 3 days. Zekthar refused. 6 hours, not 1 minute more. Ryan immediately activated the colony emergency system. Sirens wailed across settlements. Automated messages told everyone to gather essential items and move to evacuation points. Transport ships began powering up. The colony had enough vessels to evacuate everyone, but loading 12,000 people took time. The orphanage sat in a remote valley 15 kilometers from the main settlement. The emergency communication relay in that sector had failed 3 weeks ago. A repair crew was scheduled to fix it next month. No one thought it mattered much. Nothing ever happened on New Hope. Michelle heard no sirens. She received no evacuation order. The children finished breakfast and went to their morning classes. Amy Chen practiced writing her name. Older students studied Earth history. Kevin Martinez taught a music lesson in the recreation hall. 5 hours and 58 minutes after the deadline began, Governor Ryan broadcast one final plea to the Zarathian fleet. Evacuation was 90% complete, but they needed more time. Hundreds of people still waited for transport, including children from remote areas. Zekthar did not respond. At exactly 6 hours, the Zarathian fleet opened fire. Orbital bombardment cannons locked onto targets across the colony. The first strikes hit government buildings and power stations. Massive explosions tore through structures. People screamed and ran for underground shelters. Most colonists survived the initial assault. Ryan had prepared well. Shelters held firm against the bombardment, but the Zarathians expanded their targeting pattern, hitting outlying areas. In the valley, Michelle heard the first explosions. She ran to the communications room and found the relay still broken. She tried to contact the main settlement on emergency channels. Nothing worked. She made a decision. They needed to get the children to the shelter beneath the orphanage. Lisa and Kevin began moving children downstairs. The younger ones cried, frightened by the distant thunder of explosions. The older teenagers helped calm them. Amy Chen held tight to Lisa's hand, asking what was happening. The shelter could hold everyone if they crowded together. It had been built to protect against storms, not military weapons. Michelle hoped it would be enough. A Zarathian gunner identified a structure in the remote valley. Sensors showed it as a residential building. He locked weapons and fired. 3 plasma bolts struck the orphanage in rapid succession. The building exploded. Walls collapsed inward. The roof fell. Fire erupted through broken floors. The shelter entrance caved in before most children reached it. Michelle Brooks died instantly, crushed beneath falling debris. Lisa Grant survived for 3 minutes, trapped under a beam, calling for the children. Kevin Martinez made it to the shelter entrance but could not get through the collapsed doorway. Amy Chen died calling for her teacher, her small voice lost in the roar of destruction. 43 children perished in less than 5 minutes. The oldest was 16. The youngest was 4. The bombardment continued for another hour. Then the Zarathian fleet departed, leaving the colony in ruins. They had made their point. Zarathian territory belonged to Zarathians. Rescue teams reached the orphanage 3 hours later. They found smoking rubble and small bodies. Some children had made it to the shelter but died when the entrance collapsed. Others never made it out of their classrooms. The rescue workers recorded everything, standard procedure for disaster documentation. The footage showed the destruction in horrible detail, toys scattered among debris, children's drawings on broken walls, a guitar with 6 strings, somehow intact. Governor Ryan Campbell watched the footage in his emergency command center. He had known Michelle Brooks personally. She had shown him around the orphanage last year during an inspection visit. He remembered her pride in the children, her hope for their futures. Now they were gone. All of them. 43 futures erased in minutes. The news reached Earth within 24 hours. Faster-than-light communication carried the report to the home world. The footage came with it. Every major news service on Earth broadcast the Earth went silent. Every human colony, every outpost, every ship in space stopped communicating with the galaxy. Trade vessels that had been mid-flight returned to human ports. Diplomats recalled to their home worlds. Scientists working on joint projects with alien species packed their equipment and left without explanation. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Speaker Thelvan demanded answers. Why had humanity withdrawn all contact? Ambassador Daniel Price's office stood empty. His staff had departed 3 days ago. No one knew where they went. Other ambassadors grew nervous. Humans controlled significant trade routes. Their sudden absence disrupted commerce across a dozen sectors. Some species depended on human agricultural products. Food shipments had simply stopped arriving. On Earth, President Rebecca Warren addressed the United Earth Defense Council in a secured chamber beneath the surface of North America. 50 military commanders and civilian leaders filled the room. Every face showed the same expression, cold rage barely held in check. The footage from New Hope played on screens around the chamber. No one spoke during the presentation. They had all seen it before, multiple times. But Rebecca insisted they watch again. Remember why they gathered here. When the footage ended, Defense Minister Andrew Foster stood. He was a broad man with gray hair and scars from his years in the military. He had fought in the border wars 40 years ago, back when human colonies skirmished with pirates and raiders. He thought those days were over. He had been wrong. Andrew activated a holographic display. It showed Earth's moon, Luna. The image zoomed into the lunar surface, then through it, revealing massive structures beneath. The Galactic Council believed Earth maintained a small military, 200 ships, mostly patrol vessels, a defensive force adequate for protecting trade routes but nothing more. The Council was wrong. Andrew explained what few beings in the galaxy knew. For 500 years, humanity had built warships in secret, not on Earth where sensors could detect them, not in obvious shipyards visible to passing vessels. They built deep underground on Luna, Mars, and 15 hollowed asteroids scattered through the solar system. The numbers appeared on the display. 300 warships, not patrol vessels. True warships designed for one purpose: war. Admiral Brandon Cole approached the holographic display. He commanded Earth's hidden fleet, a position he had held for 12 years. He had spent those years preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now, it had arrived. Brandon explained the fleet composition. Destroyers faster than anything in the known galaxy. Cruisers carrying weapons banned by Galactic Council treaties centuries ago. Battleships built using human engineering principles that other species considered too dangerous. Earth had never signed the weapon limitation treaties. The Council had asked. Humanity politely declined, claiming they preferred to maintain sovereignty over military decisions. The Council accepted this, assuming humans lacked the technology to build serious weapons anyway. Commander Nicole Hayes sat in the third row, listening to Admiral Cole's presentation. She commanded the Rapid Response Division, 50 of the fastest ships in the fleet. Her crews trained constantly, running combat simulations that other species would consider paranoid. Nicole had a personal reason for being here. Her daughter Jenny attended school on New Hope Colony. The 14-year-old had been visiting on an exchange program. She survived the attack only because her scheduled tour of the orphanage was canceled the day before. The teacher organizing the tour had been sick. Jenny was safe now, back on Earth. But she had nightmares. She talked about the children she was supposed to meet, kids her age and younger. Now dead because a Zarathian commander decided a deadline mattered more than innocent lives. President Warren called for a vote. The decision before them was simple: war or peace. Pursue justice through Galactic Council channels or take direct action. The vote was unanimous: war. On the Zarathian homeworld, Emperor Vexthor received reports about Earth's silence. He dismissed them as irrelevant. Humans were weak, hiding behind the Council's protection. They would complain loudly but do nothing of substance. His military advisors agreed. Earth had no significant fleet. The few human ships ever seen in combat were adequate for fighting pirates, but useless against a real military. Vexthor had commanded 2,000 warships. He feared nothing from humans. The Emperor issued a statement to the Galactic Council. The attack on New Hope was regrettable but necessary. The colonists had been warned. They failed to evacuate in time. Zarathian law was clear. Trespassers on Imperial territory faced consequences. As compensation, Vexthor offered 10,000 credits per casualty. 43 children had died. Therefore, 430,000 credits total. A generous offer, he claimed, given the circumstances. The Council debated accepting the compensation. Some species thought it fair. Others felt uncomfortable but saw no alternative. War against the Zarathian Empire would be costly. Perhaps money could settle the matter. Ambassador Daniel Price returned to the council chamber 7 days after leaving. He carried a single photograph printed on physical paper, an old Earth custom. The image showed 43 children standing together in front of the bright future orphanage. They smiled at the camera. Some made silly faces. Others stood proudly. Daniel walked to the speaker's podium. He placed the photograph where every ambassador could see it. Then he spoke for exactly 3 minutes. He did not threaten. He did not raise his voice. He simply stated facts. He named each child. Amy Chen, age 4. Marcus Wilson, age 7. Jennifer Torres, age 9. He continued through all 43 names. He gave their ages. He described what they wanted to be when they grew up. Lisa Grant had taught Amy to read. The little girl dreamed of becoming a teacher like Lisa someday. Kevin Martinez taught guitar to the older children. Marcus Wilson was learning to play and wanted to form a band. Jennifer Torres studied engineering. She planned to help build new colonies. Now she would build nothing. Daniel described how Michelle Brooks ran the orphanage with love and dedication, how she made sure every child felt valued, how she celebrated their small victories and comforted their sorrows. Then he stated the final fact. Earth withdrew from the Galactic Coalition effective immediately. This matter was between humanity and the Zarathian Empire. The Council could debate compensation if it wished. Earth would handle justice on its own terms. Daniel picked up the photograph and walked out. He did not look back. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some ambassadors called for him to return. Others demanded Earth reconsider. A few sat in shocked silence. Speaker Thelvan tried to restore order. He failed. The council dissolved into arguments about what humanity might do. Most assumed nothing serious. Humans had always been peaceful members of the coalition. Surely they would calm down eventually. Admiral Brandon Cole stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, flagship of Earth's fleet. Around him, 300 warships prepared to depart. Crews ran final system checks, weapons powered up. Faster than light drives charged. Each ship carried a full combat load. Missiles designed to think and adapt, kinetic weapons that struck at 90% light speed, electronic warfare systems that could take control of enemy vessels. Humanity had spent 5 centuries developing weapons other species considered theoretical. Now those theories would be tested. Nicole Hayes reviewed her assignment aboard the UES Swift Retribution. Her 50 ships would strike first, hitting Zarathian positions before the main fleet arrived. Speed and surprise were her advantages. Zarathians relied on heavy armor and overwhelming firepower. They had never faced enemies who could dance around them. The fleet departed Earth space in perfect formation, 300 ships moving as one. They jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward Zarathian territory. Brandon sent one final message before they jumped. It broadcast on all frequencies, in every major galactic language. The Zarathian Empire had 72 hours to surrender Emperor Vexthor and Commander Zekthar for trial. All military forces must stand down. This was not negotiable. The first Zarathian ship died before its commander understood what hit it. A kinetic projectile traveling at 90% light speed punched through the vessel's armor like it was paper. The ship split in half, both sections tumbling away in clouds of frozen atmosphere. 20 more Zarathian vessels exploded in the first 30 seconds. Human missiles moved too fast for point defense systems. Electronic warfare signals scrambled Zarathian communications. Ships that tried to coordinate found their systems turning against them. Commander Zaltek commanded a Zarathian heavy cruiser in the defense fleet. He had fought in 12 battles over his 30-year career. He had seen enemy ships destroyed, watched entire fleets burn. But he had never seen anything like this. Human ships moved like nothing he had encountered. They appeared, fired, and vanished before his weapons could lock on. His tactical officer screamed that their targeting systems could not track something moving that fast. Zaltek ordered his crew to fire anyway, shoot where the humans had been, maybe hit where they were going. Nothing worked. Human vessels danced through Zarathian formations, killing ships with casual ease. Zaltek watched his fleet die around him, 300 ships in 17 minutes. His own vessel took a missile hit that destroyed the engine section. He gave the order to abandon ship. The surviving Zarathian vessels retreated in chaos. Captains broadcast frantic calls for help. Some ships collided with each other in their panic to escape. The organized Zarathian battle line dissolved into a mob of fleeing vessels. Admiral Brandon Cole watched from the bridge of the Vengeance. His tactical officer reported enemy fleet breaking off. Casualty count: 315 Zarathian ships destroyed or disabled. Human casualties: minor damage to 2 destroyers, no ships lost, no crew deaths. Brandon did not celebrate. This was not a victory. This was just the beginning. He opened communication channels to the fleeing Zarathian vessels. His message was simple: return to base. Tell your emperor what happened here. Tell him the human fleet is coming. Captain Justin Miller commanded the destroyer Swift Justice, part of Nicole Hayes's rapid response force. His ship had personally destroyed 47 Zarathian vessels in the first week of fighting, not because the Zarathians were weak, but because human tactics made traditional defense useless. Justin used a pattern that terrified enemy crews. His ship would appear at the edge of sensor range, fire a full missile spread, then jump away before return fire arrived. By the time Zarathian weapons reached where the Swift Justice had been, the ship was already 10,000 kilometers away, preparing another strike. His crew worked with mechanical precision. Weapons officer Katie Morris could launch a full spread in under 4 seconds. Navigation officer Paul Chen plotted jump coordinates faster than the ship's computer. Engineering Chief Linda Park kept the faster-than-light drive ready for instant activation. They had trained together for 8 years, running simulations of exactly this scenario. The Galactic Council thought humanity was peaceful. Human military commanders knew better. Peace required preparation for war. On the Galactic Council station, ambassadors watched recordings of the battle in stunned silence. A Rixian military analyst played the footage 3 times, certain there must be some mistake in the sensor data. No fleet could move that fast. No weapons could strike with such precision. But the data did not lie. Human ships performed maneuvers that should be physically impossible. They changed direction without slowing down. They fired while in faster-than-light transit, something Council scientists said could not work. Yet it did work. Zarathian wrecks scattered across space proved it. Speaker Thelvan tried to contact Ambassador Daniel Price. The ambassador did not respond. Thelvan sent messages to Earth directly. Those went unanswered too. Humanity was done talking. Some council members suggested intervening. Send a coalition fleet to stop the human advance. The military committee reviewed that proposal for 6 hours before rejecting it. No one wanted to fight the fleet that just destroyed 300 Zarathian ships without losing a single vessel. The human advance continued. World after world, Zarathian defense forces crumbled. Admiral Cole's fleet moved through Imperial space like a knife through cloth. Each engagement followed the same pattern. Zarathians formed traditional battle lines. Humans tore them apart. But something confused the watching galaxy. Human forces did not bombard civilian populations. They did not massacre surrendering troops. They fought with overwhelming fury against military targets, then stopped. On the Zarathian colony world of Vexnor, the local defense fleet made its stand. 20 ships against a human strike force of 30 vessels. The battle lasted 8 minutes. All 20 Zarathian ships were disabled, not destroyed. Their crews abandoned ship on human orders. Then the human fleet commander broadcast a message to the planet below. All military personnel should disarm and surrender. Civilians would not be harmed. Anyone who laid down weapons would be guaranteed safety. The planetary governor expected orbital bombardment. New Hope had been destroyed from orbit. Surely humans would return the favor. Instead, human Marines landed at the capital city's spaceport. They secured military facilities, arrested senior officers, and established order. Civilian infrastructure remained untouched. Power stations kept running, water treatment plants continued operating, food distribution proceeded normally. The only change was Zarathian military flags came down. Commander Nicole Hayes led the assault on the Zarathian fortress world of Carthen. The planet housed a major military academy and 3 fleet bases. 200,000 Zarathian soldiers defended it. Intelligence said it would be the toughest fight yet. Nicole approached the planet with her entire division. 50 ships against orbital defense platforms and a garrison fleet of 60 vessels. Her tactical plan was aggressive. Strike the orbital defenses first, disable them before they could coordinate fire, then deal with the fleet. The battle began at 0600 local time. Nicole's ships appeared in 3 groups, hitting the orbital platforms from different angles simultaneously. Missiles and kinetic rounds destroyed targeting sensors. Electronic warfare blinded defensive systems. In 12 minutes, 23 platforms went dark. The Zarathian fleet commander tried to rally his forces. He broadcast orders to form defensive positions around the remaining platforms. His communications officer reported something strange. Human signals were interfering with their command network. Then his own ships started firing on each other. Human electronic warfare had taken control of fleet coordination systems. Zarathian vessels believed they were shooting at humans. They were actually shooting at their fellow Zarathians. Nicole watched the chaos from her command chair. Her electronic warfare officer, Sam Peterson, had developed the intrusion software himself. 2 years of work, testing it in simulations, refining it. Now it performed perfectly. The Zarathian fleet destroyed itself while human ships watched from a safe distance. When the shooting stopped, 40 Zarathian vessels drifted dead in space. 20 more surrendered immediately. Nicole broadcast her message. Lay down weapons, accept human authority, or face destruction. The planetary governor surrendered within an hour. On Zarath Prime, Emperor Vexthor watched his empire collapse. 6 weeks into the war, humanity controlled 37 Zarathian worlds. His fleet was shattered. Most of his military commanders were dead or captured. Regional governors surrendered rather than fight. He demanded answers from his advisors. How could humans be so strong? Where did they get such technology? His intelligence minister had no answers. Earth had hidden its true capabilities for 500 years. Every assessment had been wrong. Vexthor considered suing for peace. Then he rejected the idea. The Zarathian Empire did not surrender. It had stood for 2,000 years. He would not be the emperor who let it fall. He recalled his personal guard fleet, the most elite force in the empire. 200 ships crewed by the best Zarathian warriors. They would make a stand at Zarath Prime. Let the humans come. Let them try to take the home world. The Galactic Council finally acted. Speaker Thelvan called an emergency vote. The resolution was simple. Expel the Zarathian Empire from the Unified Galactic Coalition for violations of the Protected Innocence Act. The act was clear. Children of all species held protected status during conflicts. Attacking them was not merely tragic, it was a war crime. New Hope Orphanage qualified for protection. The Zarathians had known children were there. They fired anyway. The vote was unanimous. 46 species voted to expel the Zarathians. Only the Zarathian ambassador voted against, and his vote did not matter. His empire was gone. Ambassador Daniel Price attended the vote. He sat in the human section, silent as always. When the results were announced, he stood and spoke one sentence. Earth accepts the Council's decision. Then he sat back down. Commander Nicole Hayes reviewed the tactical situation from her command chair aboard the Swift Retribution. Zarath Prime hung in space ahead, a blue and green world home to 8 billion Zarathians. The Emperor's guard fleet formed a defensive sphere around the planet, 200 of the best ships the Empire could field. Nicole had fought Zarathian forces for 6 weeks. She understood their tactics, their strengths, their weaknesses. The guard fleet would fight bravely. They would die bravely, too, but they would die. Admiral Brandon Cole gave the operation to Nicole. Her rapid response division would lead the assault. 50 ships against 200. The math did not matter. Human technology made numbers irrelevant. Nicole began the attack at 0400 planetary time. Her ships jumped in close, appearing within the guard fleet's defensive sphere. Zarathian commanders panicked. Enemy vessels were supposed to be outside, not inside. Their formations assumed threats came from beyond, not within. The confusion lasted exactly 90 seconds. Then, human electronic warfare systems activated. Every Zarathian ship lost communications simultaneously. Their targeting computers went dark. Navigation systems failed. Weapons refused to fire. Nicole's electronic warfare officer, Sam Peterson, worked his console with calm efficiency. He had designed the intrusion software specifically for Zarathian military systems. 6 months of analysis, studying captured vessels, finding every vulnerability. Now his work paid off. 200 Zarathian guard ships drifted helpless in space. Their crews tried emergency protocols, attempting to regain control. Nothing worked. Human software had locked them out of their own vessels. Nicole broadcast a message on open channels. All Zarathian personnel should abandon ship immediately. Human Marines would board the vessels in 30 minutes. Anyone still aboard would be considered hostile. The Zarathian crews faced a choice: die defending ships they could not control, or surrender and live. Most chose life. Escape pods launched from 200 ships. Thousands of Zarathian warriors floating in space, watching human vessels secure their fleet without firing a shot. On the planet below, Emperor Vexthor watched his elite guard surrender. He stood in his throne room, surrounded by advisors who had no advice left to give. The Empire was finished. His military was gone. Human forces controlled Zarathian space. But Vexthor still had one card to play: himself. He was the Emperor. Zarathian law said the Emperor could not be taken alive. Death before dishonor. He ordered his personal guard to prepare for a final stand in the palace. Lieutenant Christopher Banks led the human special forces team assigned to capture the Emperor. His unit, designated Shadow Squad, specialized in urban operations and high-value target extraction. They had trained for years in scenarios exactly like this. The team inserted via drop pod, landing in the capital city 15 kilometers from the Imperial Palace. Local Zarathian civilians watched in fear as 12 human soldiers moved through the streets. The humans ignored the civilians completely. They had one target: the palace. Christopher's team reached the palace perimeter at dawn. The structure was massive, covering 20 square kilometers, 3,000 rooms, 40 levels, defensive walls 10 meters thick. Intelligence said 200 palace guards defended it. All elite warriors sworn to die protecting the Emperor. The palace guards expected a frontal assault. Human forces had demonstrated overwhelming military power. Surely they would blast through the gates with superior weapons. Instead, Shadow Squad went around. Sergeant Maria Lopez, the team's demolition expert, studied the palace schematics. She found what she needed: old maintenance tunnels beneath the structure, dating back centuries. The Zarathians had sealed them decades ago, but the seals were not designed to stop modern human breaching charges. The team entered through a tunnel entrance 300 meters from the palace. Maria placed shaped charges on the ancient seal. The explosion was precise, cutting through metal without collapsing the tunnel. Shadow Squad moved underground, bypassing every surface defense. They emerged inside the palace basement, in a storage area that had not been used in years. Christopher checked his tactical display. The throne room was 8 levels up at the palace center. Guard positions marked in red on his screen. 200 defenders between the team and their target. The squad moved through service corridors, areas the guards ignored. Zarathian palace defense focused on main hallways and grand chambers. No one watched the narrow passages servants used. Human intelligence had studied palace operations for weeks, mapping every route. Shadow Squad reached level 6 before encountering guards. 4 Zarathians stood watch at a junction point. They noticed the humans too late. Christopher's team used tranquilizer rounds, silent weapons that dropped targets without killing them. The guards fell unconscious in seconds. Level 7. More guards. Shadow Squad avoided them by cutting through a library filled with ancient Zarathian texts. The route was longer but safer than fighting through defended corridors. Level 8. The throne room. Christopher positioned his team at 3 different entrances. On his signal, they breached simultaneously. Flash grenades blinded the guards. Smoke filled the chamber. In the chaos, Shadow Squad moved with precision. Emperor Vexthor sat on his throne, a massive seat carved from black stone. 50 guards surrounded him, weapons ready. They could not see through the smoke, could not hear over the ringing in their ears from the flash grenades. But they knew humans were coming. Christopher emerged from the smoke directly in front of the Emperor, his rifle pointed at Vexthor's head. The Emperor stared back, unflinching. He expected death. Instead, Christopher lowered his weapon. The lieutenant spoke in perfect Zarathian. "Emperor Vexthor, you are under arrest for war crimes. 43 counts of murder, violations of protected status for children. You will stand trial under Galactic Coalition law." Vexthor laughed. Humans offering trials. He was emperor. Emperors did not submit to trials. He reached for the ceremonial blade at his side. Death before dishonor. Christopher moved faster. He grabbed the emperor's wrist, twisted, and removed the blade in one smooth motion. Vexthor struggled. At 70 years old, he was still strong for a Zarathian. But Christopher had trained his entire adult life for moments like this. The Emperor's strength meant nothing. Shadow Squad secured the throne room in 90 seconds. 50 guards disarmed without a single death. Emperor Vexthor placed in restraints and escorted from his palace. The empire that had stood for 2,000 years ended not with a battle, but with handcuffs. Commander Zekthar was captured the same day. Intelligence located him in a military bunker 300 miles from the capital. He had fled when the guard fleet surrendered, hoping to organize resistance from a hidden base. Captain Ellen Rogers led the assault team that breached his bunker. They found Zekthar alone in a command center, watching news feeds of the Emperor's capture. He did not resist. When Ellen entered the room, he simply raised his hands. Zekthar begged for mercy. He claimed he only followed orders. The attack on New Hope was not his idea. Emperor Vexthor commanded it. He was just a soldier doing his duty. Ellen said nothing. She placed him under arrest and led him from the bunker. Her face showed no emotion. She had lost a brother on New Hope. He worked as an agricultural engineer at the main settlement. The orbital bombardment killed him in the first minutes. The Zarathian government collapsed within hours of the Emperor's capture. Regional governors surrendered to human forces. Fleet commanders ordered their remaining ships to stand down. Soldiers laid down weapons across 37 occupied worlds. The Empire was dead. In its place was chaos. 8 billion Zarathians and dozens of colony worlds suddenly without leadership. Civil war could break out. Warlords could seize power. The galaxy could descend into violence. Admiral Brandon Cole addressed this problem by establishing military governance. Human forces maintained order on occupied worlds. They prevented looting, stopped revenge attacks, and kept essential services running. It was temporary, he promised. Once trials concluded and legitimate governments formed, humans would leave. The Galactic Council watched all of this with growing amazement. Humanity had demonstrated military might beyond anything in recorded history. They destroyed a 2,000-year-old empire in 6 weeks. But they did not conquer. They did not colonize. They occupied only long enough to establish order. Ambassador Daniel Price attended a council session for the first time since the vote to expel the Zarathians. Other ambassadors asked him what humanity wanted. What were Earth's terms? What would satisfy human demands? Daniel's answer was simple: trials. Justice for 43 children. Emperor Vexthor and Commander Zekthar would face legal proceedings under galactic law. If found guilty, they would be punished. Nothing more. Nothing less. Some ambassadors found this hard to believe. Humanity could demand, and the courtroom in Geneva held 3,000 observers. Representatives from every Galactic Council species attended. News crews from 40 different worlds broadcast live. Security was absolute. Human military personnel guarded every entrance. Judge Patricia Morgan presided over the proceedings. She had served on Earth's highest courts for 20 years. Her reputation for fairness was known across human space. Now she would demonstrate that fairness to the galaxy. Emperor Vexthor and Commander Zekthar sat in the defendant section, separated by armed guards. Both wore simple prison clothing instead of military uniforms. Zarathian law said emperors wore robes of state. Human law said criminals wore what the court provided. The charges were read aloud: 43 counts of murder. Violations of protected status for children under Galactic Coalition law, crimes against sentient beings, illegal use of military force against civilian targets. The prosecution presented evidence first. Security footage from New Hope played on massive screens. The galaxy watched the orphanage before the attack. Children playing in the yard. Michelle Brooks waving to the camera. Amy Chen showing her teacher a flower she picked. Then the bombardment footage. Buildings exploding, fire spreading, rescue workers finding bodies. The images were horrible but necessary. The court needed to see what happened. The galaxy needed to remember why they were here. Governor Ryan Campbell testified. He described the evacuation attempt, how he begged for more time, how Commander Zekthar refused, how 12,000 people tried to flee in 6 hours, how most survived but the orphanage never received the warning. Rescue worker Stephanie Morris broke down on the witness stand. She described finding the children, how their small bodies barely filled the bags designed for adults. How one little girl still held a toy when they found her. How nightmares still woke her every night. The defense argued military necessity. Ancient territorial claims dating back millennia. The Zarathian Empire had rights to that space. New Hope Colony was illegal under Zarathian law. Warning was given. Deadlines existed for a reason. Their lawyer, a human named Gregory Walsh, did his job professionally. He presented the strongest case possible for his clients. That was justice. Even those accused of horrible crimes deserved proper defense, but his argument sounded hollow against the footage, against the testimony, against the simple fact that 43 children died because a commander would not extend a deadline. Ambassador Daniel Price testified as chief witness for the prosecution. He spoke for 3 hours, describing each child in detail, not from files or reports, from interviews with people who knew them, teachers, friends, foster families. He told the court about Marcus Wilson, age 7. Marcus loved spaceships and wanted to be a pilot. He built models from scrap materials, spending hours getting every detail right. His foster mother said he never gave up on a project once he started. He described Jennifer Torres, age 9. Jennifer studied engineering texts meant for adults. She struggled with the math but refused help, determined to figure it out herself. Her teacher said she would have been brilliant. Amy Chen, age 4, learning to read, so proud of every new word. She carried a book everywhere, asking anyone nearby to help with words she did not know yet. 43 children, 43 futures, 43 reasons why this trial mattered. The defense called Emperor Vexthor to testify. The former emperor spoke with pride about Zarathian history. 2,000 years of civilization, 17 conquered species, territorial rights earned through strength. The prosecutor, Attorney General Sandra Price, questioned him directly. Did you order the attack on New Hope? Yes. Did you know civilians were present? Yes. Did you know children were present? A pause. Then, yes. Why did you refuse to extend the evacuation deadline? Vexthor's answer was simple. Deadlines exist for a reason. Weakness invites defiance. The Empire could not show weakness. Sandra asked the question everyone wanted answered. Was the Empire worth 43 children's lives? Vexthor looked directly at the camera. Empires are built on hard choices. Someone always pays the price. The courtroom went silent. Vexthor had just confessed, not just to the attack, but to his reasoning. Children died because showing mercy might make the Empire look weak. Commander Zekthar took the stand next. His defense was simpler. He followed orders. Military law required obedience. The Emperor commanded the attack. Zekthar executed it. What else could he do? Sandra presented evidence that Zekthar personally selected targeting priorities. The orphanage was not hit by accident. It was marked as a residential structure. Protocol said residential structures held low priority unless they posed threats. An orphanage posed no threat. Why target it? Zekthar had no answer. Eventually, he admitted the truth. His targeting officer needed to confirm weapon systems worked properly. The orphanage was a clear target in an isolated area. Good for testing. 43 children died in a weapons test. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Evidence piled up. Testimony from survivors. Technical analysis of the bombardment. Legal arguments about protected status and war crimes. Every detail examined under galactic scrutiny. Finally, the jury deliberated. 12 humans, selected randomly from Earth's population. They included a teacher, an engineer, a farmer, a doctor. Regular people making an extraordinary decision. They returned after 6 hours. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Both defendants. Every charge. Judge Patricia Morgan read the sentence. Life imprisonment. No possibility of parole. The convicted would serve their time in a maximum security facility on Earth. They would live, but they would never be free. Some humans wanted execution. President Rebecca Warren argued against it during the sentencing phase. Justice meant proportional punishment. Death was final. These men needed to live with what they did. Every day. For the rest of their lives. The facility where they would serve time was specially designed. Each cell had windows facing a memorial wall. On that wall were photographs of all 43 children. Every morning, Vexthor and Zekthar would wake to see the faces of those they killed. Every night, those faces would be the last thing they saw. The Galactic Council requested Earth's return to the Coalition. Speaker Thelvan sent a formal invitation. Humanity had demonstrated strength. Now demonstrate wisdom by rejoining the galactic community. Ambassador Daniel Price addressed the Council's request in a session attended by all member species. Earth would return, he said, but not as before. Humans would no longer sit quietly while others debated. They would participate fully, speak plainly, and they had proposals. The first proposal was simple. Expand the Protected Innocence Act. Any attack on children of any species would trigger automatic coalition response. Military intervention would be immediate. No debates, no delays. Some species objected. What if circumstances required force near children? What if they were used as shields? Daniel's response was direct. Then you plan better. Design tactics that protect children, or face consequences. The proposal passed by a wide margin. 40 species voted in favor, only 3 against. The age of attacking children and calling it necessary was over. The second proposal addressed enforcement. The coalition needed a military force capable of rapid response. Earth volunteered to provide the core fleet. Other species could contribute if they wished. This proposal generated more debate. Giving humanity military authority made some species nervous. They had seen what human forces could do. Admiral Brandon Cole's fleet destroyed an empire in 6 weeks. What if Earth decided to use that power against council members? Daniel addressed those fears directly. Earth's fleet would operate under council oversight. Any deployment required majority vote. Humans would provide capability, but the council would control use. It was the best guarantee he could offer. The proposal passed narrowly. Earth would lead coalition military forces. Other species would contribute ships and personnel, a combined fleet representing galactic unity. Admiral Brandon Cole retired from active service after the trials concluded. He had spent 40 years in Earth's military. He was tired. The war with the Zarathians would be his last campaign. He attended the dedication of a memorial on New Hope. The colony had been rebuilt. 12,000 colonists returned to their homes. The orphanage site became a memorial park. At the center stood a monument showing all 43 children, not carved in stone, but holographic projections. The children smiled and played, forever young, forever remembered. Visitors could activate displays that told each child's story. Brandon stood before the memorial for an hour. He read every name, watched every display. These children changed the galaxy, not through anything they did, but through what was done to them. Their deaths revealed humanity's true strength and its restraint. Commander Nicole Hayes received promotion to Admiral. She assumed command of the new Coalition Defense Force. 50 human ships formed the core. Other species contributed another 30 vessels. It was a small fleet compared to what existed before, but quality mattered more than quantity. Nicole's first mission was patrol duty on frontier worlds, places like New Hope, agricultural colonies, research stations, anywhere children might be at risk. Her fleet made its presence known. Pirates and raiders learned quickly. Attack a protected world, and human ships would arrive within hours. On Earth, the hidden shipyards were revealed to the galaxy. Ambassadors from other species toured the facilities beneath Luna. They saw the construction bays, the weapons testing ranges, the training simulators. Most reacted with shock. A few expressed anger that humanity hid such capability. Ambassador Daniel Price explained the truth. Earth prepared for war they hoped would never come. They built strength in secret because showing it might provoke conflict. Now the secret was revealed. Other species could see human military power. They could understand what restraint meant. Humanity could have conquered half the galaxy. Instead, they protected it. President Rebecca Warren gave a speech 5 years after the Orphanage attack. It was broadcast across human space and transmitted to every council species. She spoke about justice, about strength, about responsibility. The galaxy knew Earth's power now. 300 warships that could defeat any threat. Technology other species could not match. But power without purpose was meaningless. Earth's purpose was protection. On New Hope, the rebuilt Bright Future Memorial Orphanage opened with 17 children. Director Lauren Phillips ran the facility. She had worked as a teacher before the attack. Now she devoted her life to honoring Michelle Brooks's memory. Admiral Nicole Hayes attended the opening ceremony. She brought her daughter Jenny, now 19 and studying engineering at university. Jenny remembered the children she was supposed to meet 5 years ago. She carried their memory with her. The new orphanage looked different from the old one, better security. Underground shelters built to military standards. Direct communication links to orbital defense platforms. No one would destroy this orphanage without facing immediate response. But in important ways, it was the same. Children played in the yard. Teachers worked with students in bright classrooms. Hope lived again in the valley where it died. On Zareth Prime, former Zarathian soldiers built a memorial park in the capital city. At its center stood a bronze statue of a human child, arms raised toward the sky, face full of wonder and hope. The plaque at the statue's base was written in both Zarathian and human languages. To the 43 lights extinguished on New Hope, may we never forget their names. May we never repeat our mistakes. May their memory guide us toward peace. Ambassador Daniel Price kept the photograph of the 43 children on his desk in the council chambers. Every visiting diplomat asked about it. He told the story every time. Never shortened, never simplified. These children changed everything. Before them, the galaxy tolerated violence against the innocent. After them, such acts brought swift justice. Before them, humanity was a quiet member of the galactic community. After them, humanity became its protector. The 2,000-year peace was broken. In its place came something better. Peace enforced by strength, justice backed by capability, protection guaranteed by those willing to fight for it. The galaxy learned its lesson. Some lessons require a terrible price. Humanity paid it, and made absolutely certain that everyone remembered why. Ithing, Zarathian territory, reparations, control of trade routes. They had earned it through conquest. Why only ask for trials? Daniel explained something the galaxy had forgotten. Justice was not about what you could take. It was about what was right. 43 children died. Someone had to answer for that. Everything else was secondary. On Earth, preparations began for the trials. The largest courtroom in human history was constructed in Geneva. The proceedings would be broadcast across the galaxy. Every species would watch. Humanity would demonstrate what real justice looked like. President Rebecca Warren addressed Earth's population in a speech that defined the moment. The war was over. The empire that killed children had fallen. Now came the hard part, proving that humanity fought for justice, not revenge. Showing the galaxy that strength and mercy could coexist. The trials would begin in 30 days. Some ambassadors expected Price to gloat. He did not. Others thought he might call for reconciliation. He did not do that either. He simply accepted the vote and waited for what came next. What came next was Admiral Brandon Cole's fleet arriving at Zareth Prime. 300 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They did not immediately attack. Instead, Brandon sent a message. Emperor Vexthor and Commander Zekthar had 24 hours to surrender for trial. All military forces should stand down. Resistance was futile. Surrender was the only option. Vexthor sent his response. The Zarathian Empire would never bow to humans. His guard fleet would defend the home world to the last ship. Come and try to take it. Brandon read the message and sighed. He had given them a chance. They refused. Now the reckoning would be complete. On Zareth Prime, Emperor Vexthor read the human message and laughed. Surrender to humans? The species that could barely defend their own colonies? He sent his response immediately. He would personally oversee the destruction of Earth's pathetic fleet. The children of New Hope died because their parents chose poorly. If humans wanted war, the Zarathian Empire would demonstrate why 17 species bowed before Zarathian might. The 72-hour deadline passed with no Zarathian response, except mockery. Emperor Vexthor deployed his defense fleet. 800 ships moved to intercept the human forces, more than enough to handle a few hundred human vessels. Admiral Brandon Cole watched Zarathian ships approach on his tactical display. He recognized their formation. Standard Zarathian battle doctrine, unchanged for 1,000 years. Heavy ships in the center, lighter vessels on the flanks. They would try to envelope the human fleet and destroy it through concentrated fire. Brandon gave the order. The human fleet attacked. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The engagement lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the Zarathian defense fleet had lost 300 ships. Human casualties were 0. Ages. Ambassador Daniel Price watched from his office on the council station. He saw the orphanage before and after. He saw the small bodies being recovered. He watched rescue workers gently placing children in body bags designed for adults, the bags far too large. He watched Amy Chen's final moments, recovered from a security camera that somehow survived. The little girl looked up at the ceiling as it fell. She called for Lisa. Then the feed went dark. Daniel sat alone in his office for a long time. Then he sent a single message to Earth. 3 words. I am returning.